In this video, we play 2-5 cash at the Wynn. We end up talking before one of our big hands and predicting the flop where we hit a set.
I like the fives, guys. I wasn't lying.
Watch to find out if we get paid or not. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and let me know what you thought. Only a small percentage of you are subscribed. It's free. You can always change your mind later. Let's go. In the first hand of the night, we have Jack 9 of clubs, and we raise under the gun 2 to $25. We size up a bit in this hand as the cutoff has just come back and is in for $5. They fold, and the big blind ends up 3-betting us to 120. Being pretty deep, 1K effective, we go ahead and make the call. Could certainly fold here, but we are not in that kind of mood. The flop comes Queen 9-3. There's about $250 in the pot, and our opponent bets about a third, $65. With middle pair and a backdoor club draw, we are not going anywhere, we make the call. The turn is the 6 of spades. This time our opponent checks. They can definitely still have better here, and with middle pair, not much reason to bet, so we're just going to pot control and check back. The river is the 7 of clubs. Our opponent checks to us, and once again, we're just going to check back as there's really no reason to bet here. We probably only get called by better. Our opponent announces ace high, and we show our hand and are good. In the next hand, there is a late position raise to $20. The small blind calls, and we have ace queen off in the big blind. We decide to squeeze for something around 100 or 120. The action pre-flop isn't totally clear, but we do know that the original raiser folds and the small blind calls. This person is only about $350 effective to start the hand. The flop comes ace, king, 5, 2 clubs. They check to us and we bet $70. They decide they do not want to call and instead go all in for about 150 or 200 total. We obviously snap call and let's see a run out. The turn is a deuce of spades and the river is a 6 of hearts. In what is a pretty rare circumstance, our opponent open folds. No need to show, so we also slide our hand into the muck. As we collect our chips, our opponent lets us know he had a flush draw.
Flush draw.
Flush draw, yeah.
Gamble.
The next hand starts recording as there are several limps starting with under the gun, and we pick up ace king off in the small blind and raise to something like $40. Per usual, no one folds and we go 4 ways to a flop. We are quite happy as we see king 8-3. With no draws and not really much to worry about, we go ahead and start with a check. The under the gun limp caller bets $40 and everyone else folds. Heads up here, we are just going to make the call. The turn is the 6 of spades. This brings a flush draw on board but otherwise changes nothing. We check and this time our opponent bets about half pot, 105. They have about $400 left behind, so we could certainly jam here for value, but it's kind of a weird spot, so I think our opponent could definitely be bluffing as well, so we just decided to call. The river is the 9 of clubs. We check and this time our opponent bets 110. With about $500 in the pot, this is obviously a very small bet. It is so small in fact that it warrants a value jam from us.
All in.
As we put our opponent all in for about $250 more. They make the call, we show, and we are good. They flip over a king to show they also had top pair. In the next hand, we have king jack off, and there is an early position raised to $15. We call on the cutoff, and the big blind also makes a call. The flop comes king 8-3. The original raiser follows up with a c-bet for $25. We make the call and the big blind folds. The turn is the 7 of clubs. This time our opponent checks. With top pair and the jack of clubs for a flush draw, we are going to bet for value and protection. We bet $50 and our opponent makes the call. The river is the 5 of clubs. We now have the 3rd best flush, and when our opponent leads for $50, we can't do anything but call. As you can probably tell by my tone, we end up losing as our opponent has the ace of clubs. Ace queen to be exact. Despite losing, I'm pretty happy at how we played it, bet the turn for value, and lost pretty much the minimum on the river. In the next hand, there are a couple of limps in early position, and we raise under the gun 2 to $25. The limpers and then some call as we go 6 ways to a flop. We see 10-6-3. With so many people in this hand, we are going to proceed with caution, and we check, and the late position player bets $50. The button calls, and an early position player goes all in for about $230. This guy was a maniac throughout this entire game, so top pair here is actually pretty good. With that said, we do still have to worry about these late position players, but I think our hand's still too strong, so we go ahead and make the call. Surprisingly, the late position player in the hijack also calls. The button folds, and now we have a ballooned pot to over $800. The turn is the ace of clubs. We pick up the nut flush draw to go along with our flopped top pair.
action is on us, and I think we do something kind of stupid. We decide to lead for $400. At the time, I was thinking we need to turn our hand into some kind of semi-bluff, but that's really not needed. We should actually be pretty concerned with our opponent also calling the $230 jam. They can definitely still have a set here like 6s or 3s, or if they have a better 10 than us, they would have ace 10 and now they have 2 pair. Besides, we have clubs, so that's not really a concern either. Thankfully, this mistake does not cost us as our opponent folds. We now just have to beat the person that is all in. The river is the 4 of hearts. Our opponent announces he has nothing, and we slowly show our hand as he shows 5-3 off. They obviously went a little wild there with bottom pair, and we pick up a nice almost $900 pot. In this next hand, we have king jack of clubs, and there is an early position limp for $5. We raise to $30 in the low jack and the button, big blind, and the limper call. The flop comes jack 10-6. There's about $120 in the pot, and it checks to us, and we bet $50. It folds to the big blind, who, surprisingly enough, raises to 140. While this is definitely troublesome, we do have top pair and backdoor clubs, so we are going to continue. We make the call, and the turn comes the 3 of clubs. We have now picked up the second nut flush draw to go along with our top pair, and our opponent is not slowing down. He bets $235 into about $400. With the additional equity, we are not folding, we make the call. The river is the 9 of hearts. Our opponent goes all in for $300 into about $840. Getting about 3-1 here, we reluctantly make the call. Our opponent shows pocket 10s for a flopped set. Turning the flush draw definitely cost us. Next up, we are only 6-handed, and we have ace king off, and we are facing a $20 raise from the low jack. We 3-bet to $65 on the hijack, and our opponent actually 4-bets us to $170. We aren't really going to be doing a ton of 5-betting in general in position, but ace king off specifically, I think we lean more towards just a call, whereas ace king suited, we may want to 5-bet sometimes. We make the call, and the flop comes king 10 deuce, all diamonds. There's about $350 in the pot, and our opponent bets 90. We do in fact have the ace of diamonds, so we are loving life, and we just make the call. The turn is the 3 of spades. This changes nothing, and our opponent bets $425 this time. With top pair and the nut flush draw, nothing to do here but make the call. The river is the 10 of spades. This time our opponent slows down and checks. The pot is now about $1,400, and our opponent only has about $500 left. I'm not really sure what worse hands we can get called by here, but it does seem too nitty to check this back.
All in.
We go all in for the remaining $500-ish, and our opponent folds. Shout out to this young gun for trying to bluff us on our vlog. The disrespect. In the next hand, we have king queen suited, and we are facing a low jack raise to $30. Being that this open is so large and it's coming from a pretty tight opponent, we are just going to make the call on the button. The blinds fold, and we are heads up, and the flop comes king queen 3. We flop top 2 pair with the backdoor spade draw. Our opponent wastes no time getting money in the middle and bets $50 into about 60. We could raise here, but I have seen our opponent bet large as a bluff in circumstances like this, so we just decide to make the call. The turn is the 10 of diamonds. This time our opponent bets $100. It's clear they have a hand they like, and it's time to get more money in the pot. We raise to $350. Our opponent makes the call. The river is the 4 of hearts. There is now almost $900 in the pot, and when our opponent checks, we need to decide what to bet. We block kings and queens. Our opponent could have pocket 10s, they could have ace jack, but they could also just have pocket aces or ace king. We are going to target these hands exactly, so we bet $200. This certainly feels pretty thin, and I was really planning on folding if our opponent jammed. No need for this though, as our opponent makes the call. We show our hand and are good. Our opponent is clearly frustrated as she throws her hand into the muck. It's nice to get what was pretty likely thin value on the river. In one of the last hands of the night, we pick up pocket aces as the cutoff opens to $20. We 3-bet on the button to $65, and the big blind actually 4-bets to $205. The cutoff folds, and we need to decide whether to call or 5-bet. In this circumstance, we are $1,700 effective, so pretty deep. I haven't seen much action from this player previously, so I assume he's pretty tight. For these reasons, we do 5-bet to $500. Unfortunately, our opponent ends up folding. While nothing came of this hand, I thought it was a pretty interesting spot to point out. This hand also shows that I can 5-bet aces, unlike a couple videos ago where we 6-bet ace-5 suited. If you missed that one, check it out after you finish this video. In the last hand of the night, we truly call our shot. We have pocket 5s and the cutoff raises to $15. The button calls and we complete in the big blind. Before we say a flop, we are in the talkative mood and we say something along the lines of, I want to see 3 5s. This is quite relevant as the flop comes ace-7-5. Bingo, we called for it and got it. It checks to the cutoff who bets $25. The button makes the call. With flush and straight draws out there, we are going to bump it up to 130. If calling for 5s and raising Wynn 1 is on the flop doesn't look strong enough, then let's add some speech play.
I like the 5s, guys. I wasn't lying.
Apparently the cutoff is still a non-believer as he 3-bets to 275. The button folds and our opponent only has about $400 behind. For this reason, we just want to get it in right now.
Let's gamble. I'm all in.
All in?
Yes.
Our opponent makes a call and we see a run out. The turn is the 10 of clubs and the river is the 3 of diamonds. We show our set of 5s to our table's amusement and our opponent actually shows ace-5 off.
Yeah, I'm sad.
Oh my god, I knew.
Really?
I wasn't kidding.
Yeah. 15. I see the other one.
But he's never folding. You're never folding too fair.
With a 5 himself, I don't blame our opponent for calling at all. It was late and I was just having fun, but yes, obviously our speech play is super strong.
Nothing worse than an honest poker player.
I tried to warn him.
With that, we admire our final chip stack and cash out.
What's up, guys? We are leading the Wynn Encore Poker Room. Tonight was a good cash game session. We bought in for $1,400 total and cashed out for $5,010, which is a $3,600 win. So $3,600 profit. Pretty nice night. Ran pretty well, per usual of cash games when you do well. But yeah, makes up for a lot of these tournament losses I've had lately. But otherwise, very happy. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought. Let's go.